hopefully the city attorney can join us at some point in time. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Danville Architectural Heritage Board, Wednesday, November 20th, 2019. A little bit of apology for running a little bit late. We normally like to be a little bit punctual. First order of business on the agenda is the approval of minutes for 10/16, previous meeting.
I'll move for their approval.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. Have any further discussion on the minutes? Otherwise, all in favor? Aye. None opposed? Thank you very much. First order of business is for certificate of appropriateness. We're looking at 212 South 2nd Street, new sign in the front yard. Bridgette, is there anyone here representing?
Mr. Stafford is here. He wants to come on up.
If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer. It's pretty simple. Pretty much replacing the one that was there. It might be two square foot bigger, but that's it.
Did you replace the posts?
Put one post back in the same spot.
Yeah, we just want to hear
Step up so we
you.
can get your comments. We're going to make you come up front, I'm
Yeah, I
sorry.
hate that.
So I'm going to ask the question again. Did you replace did you put in new posts?
Yes, I did. The posts were bad, and I put one of them right back in the same spot, and the other one I had to widen, because it's, I think this one's 4 foot wide, and the other one was 3 foot, so.
What is excess man?
It is a doctor's office. There's 3 doctors there, and
Not that has anything to do with,
no, it's real good. I mean,
I'm just curious.
yeah. I've switched doctors because I like them so well.
Good, do good work, thank you. Any questions? Any further questions? Do I have a motion? Well, you need to read,
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
please.
Make the motion that we accept as proposed. It falls under 6.2 in signage in the historic district. This actually kind of falls between .1 and .2, historic and new, because it used one of the original placement, but also is new signage. It meets our requirements for size in regards to the size of the building. So I say we approve it.
Okay, so we have a motion,
Second.
have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you all.
Appreciate your patience and time.
No problem.
Second item on the agenda, 131 and 135 North 4th Street. And I believe this is, gentlemen, if you'll step up and introduce yourselves, please. For the record, not that we don't know 3 characters like you, but for the record, please.
I'm Craig Butler. I'm one of the partners in Gypsy Run Brewery.
Brian Reynolds, same.
Morgan Bird.
Partner.
Partners.
All right, so I'll start this. You've started putting up a mural, and we appreciate you stopping work and coming before us. That means a lot. There's a couple of, we're referencing all of our book today, so I'm just going to start throwing out numbers. You don't have to worry about it, but it's just for the record. Public artwork falls under 6.3.3. And I believe you might have been explaining in the back that there's a line between public art and murals and signage, and it is the name. So having Gypsy Run on the back makes it exceptionally problematic. So, 1, I would say you have to get rid of the Gypsy Run. 2, if you're permitting a mural in the district, even though it's on the back and nobody's going to see it, we would request a maintenance plan for the life of the mural, and that can be really simple. It can be, we promise to keep it touched up, and if it starts to look bad, we'll paint over it. It can be that simple.
Yes.
But we request that you submit that. Those were my 2 concerns.
I would like to know what the surface of the building was before you painted it. What
It's
did
like
you-
a stucco
So
kind
it
of,
was not a painted surface.
it's painted stucco.
How big, I've got a question. how big is the signage that we're talking about? No, I know that.
I think it's, according to what Steve has told us, I think it's bigger than what is allowed. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest.
If it were a sign, that's correct.
Well, look, am I allowed to interject at any
Oh,
point?
certainly.
Absolutely.
First of all, we know we messed up now. We just were under the false assumption, not that anybody told us bad information, but we just thought, hey, guys, we have a wall that can only be seen from our property. So I guess in my head as a businessman, is that a sign? Is it a sign when you're not even showing the public the words?
Actually, it is visible from the public because I think we've had some complaints from the historic district of Broadway.
So at the, down the, okay. that's how I
And you can
was
see it,
thinking.
you can see it walking down the street.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
There's, if I may, I walked the whole perimeter. It's only visible on Broadway
Okay.
in a span of maybe 10 to 15 feet. Otherwise, it's completely concealed.
So we have a, yeah, we
So-
technically
wait a
violated
minute.
it.
To
So
say it's,
I
to say
can't,
it's visible on Broadway is a misconception. It's not visible on Broadway. It's only
but
visible.
what if you're on the second floor?
Well,
in
no,
a
it
bedroom?
honestly, that is a moot point, because we're in a historic district, and if you make any major changes
that's
like this,
true.
just because, you
Yes.
just have to come before us.
can I
Yes.
come up, can I give you an idea that I have?
I'm not done. I had the floor and I'm not done, okay?
John, I think he had the floor.
Well,
But if he's willing to see.
But John, I
go
see,
ahead. There you go.
I'm only saying that, yes, it's visible from Broadway. Is it visible on all of Broadway? No.
No.
It's a very minute area. Can you see it? Nowhere else can you see that anywhere. So that's my contention when we say it's visible on Broadway, and it is visible, but very, very small window. That was my point.
Very, very well.
and so I guess I've conceptualized a plan in my head, and we've talked about it a little bit. What if, let's say we take Gypsy Run off of it, and our artists can do that easily and blend it into the existing mural. Then we go back,
Before we go there, sorry to interrupt. One, Gypsy Run is not visible from anywhere other than inside our courtyard. The fences, you cannot see the words Gypsy Run from anywhere. Two, Gypsy Run is not the name of our shop. Then technically, the name of our shop is Gypsy Run Brewery. So, touche, I get that. But that's not technically the name of our shop. So before we go down the road of getting rid of the words Gypsy Run and changing what's there, changing the art, we'd like to have that out there. Now, two, if we need to go down the road of just getting rid of Gypsy Run, the words, we can. It's not-
but are you guys saying you can actually see Gypsy Run with the fence back up? You can actually see Gypsy Run from a point somewhere on Broadway?
I think what the point we made was whether it's visible or not is a moot point. Am I correct under the
Yeah,
ordinance?
I'd like to just talk about the design of the, if you look at 6.3.3B, employ design choices that are compatible with the district. And if you go down to the fourth bullet point, our guidelines say, engage designs that are unique to Danville and relate to the heritage and character of the community are encouraged. So that's what we have to look at. And I don't know how we make that work.
We're changing the vibe of North 4th Street.
Dana?
I'd like to know if this lack of visibility is due to the fence that goes from Broadway perpendicularly back toward the property, and if you own that fence, or if another property owner might take that down, they can totally visible.
They can't take that
We
fence
have to
down.
have the fence up.
They have to have that fence up because they have a patio back there with alcohol, so it's a requirement of our alcohol license.
I'm talking about the fence that's next to the driveway of the building that's on the corner.
But-
of Broadway.
But they have a patio permit for alcohol for that whole area, and it has to be enclosed by a fence of at least 4 feet.
Do they own that fence?
I don't think we do at this time.
I don't know who owns the fence, but if they don't have that fence, they got to put up another one.
correct, yeah.
if they want to have alcohol
we
out there.
understand that. And we put up a taller fence than what currently exists.
So for clarification, so you guys are saying since you can see, if you can see any part of the mural from the street, but not the actual letters, that's still a violation?
It says here that you cannot depict a commercial product, service name, business name, symbolic logo, or other such information that would perceivably be construed as an endorsement of a particular entry, service, or product. Gypsy Run is your business, so I think that has to go, right?
Yeah, and the way we've discussed it in the past has been, if you all moved out of there, another business moved in, would that mural translate to the new business? That's kind of been our line of arguments. And I gotta say, Gypsy Run is pretty specific.
So let me go back to
Not
that.
on our building.
So if but I'm just spitballing here.
That's, hey, we'll welcome
That's all I've
that.
got,
We can
man. That's all I
brainstorm
got.
this
I'm
and
not a
come up with
lawyer
solution. It'd be great.
and I haven't read all the laws. I don't have time. I've got work to do. But, so anyway, let's say we take Gypsy Run off of the mural. Then it becomes back into you guys' court whether you think the mural is acceptable or not.
And in that case, I will say that even though it just says encouraged for the character of the community, and because it is kind of tucked away, and the top is just gonna be blank colors, is that correct?
Just black.
Yeah, so honestly, it was in the email that got sent out, I don't know if it's, there you go. Honestly, if you take the names out, I'm happy to approve.
Before y'all finish, I do think we have the public that wants to weigh in.
I would welcome any other comments from the public. Stand and be recognized.
You'll need to go over there.
Yes, sir.
As bad as as much as I love to get up here, I'll say something.
Mr. Kirby, let me recognize you, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Kurt, pull that microphone down. There you go. Thanks.
Okay, so I was just listening because anytime a mural comes up, I do a lot of murals in the Louisville area. And I just completed a while in Louisville, sort of the same subject you all talking about. The name of the bar was, it's a pretty good sized mural on the side of a bar, and the bar's name was Trouble. But they put a big writing on the wall that says whiskey got me into trouble. So that's kind of a play with the names up there, but it's not. Would that be acceptable if they said something gypsy?
I am totally not even gonna entertain that idea. But I love what they did in Louisville.
I
But
think
that
that's
happens
quite
a lot.
intriguing and quite ingenious. I'm not prepared to address that at
Well,
this
that
moment.
does happen a lot in Louisville, because
Yeah.
they're not allowed to put the name on the side of their building also, but they play with words, and it gets passed by the board, and it, everybody likes that saying, so, just a side note there. I'll mind my own business now.
No, sir. Yes, sir. If you state your name and.
Sure. Good morning to everyone. My name is William Updike. I am the owner and resident of 410 West Broadway, which is the immediate rear yard neighbor of the mural. What I'd like to say is while both my property and the mural are within the historic overlay difference, there's a distinction between the two. My property is a contributing building to the Broadway, or Lexington Avenue Broadway Historic District, which was established in 1987 under Criterion C of the National Register, criteria being significance for the integrity of its architecture. This building was not, and I can't really figure out if it's in the commercial district or not. I don't think it is. But anyway, this is kind of besides the point. What I think, though, is if we're going to deal with properties that are located within a National Register Historic District or their view shed, meaning you can see them from that district, it kind of goes by the Department of Interior standards to hold those to kind of a higher standard of consideration by the project proponent and the review. As I said, these are all buildings that are on West Broadway anyway, are contributing buildings to the National Register of Historic Places District. This district has a high degree of historical integrity and significance to the city. In fact, so much so that your guidelines illustrate buildings throughout it, kind of this illustrate the preservation principles and design ideas that we want to aspire to. you kind of just run through this. On page 7 of your guidelines, you talk in the guiding preservation principles section. Second bullet point, ask us to understand how a project potentially affects the larger setting, its context in which it's located. In this case, both the Historic Overlay District and a National Register of Historic Places District. This is further discussed on page 24 in your third bullet point regarding the relationship of a project to the street. And the fourth bullet point asking the question, is the project compatible in terms of accepted treatments within the local context? I would make a couple arguments here. It's true the mural is painted on the rear of the building, but elements of this mural are clearly visible from Broadway. If you stand on the sidewalk in front of my house, look at my house, you can see it clearly. The top of the seahorse element in particular. This is especially true at night when it's illuminated. Compatibility for murals is discussed on page 101, section B, as you mentioned. Now, there's nothing else like this mural within the Lexington Avenue Broadway Historic District that this mural faces. Art of the graffiti style executed with spray paint is not appropriate within this National Register District or its view shed. You go on, and I won't go through the rest of this because you actually hit it. One thing I would say is about the character of the community. Again, there's nothing there that reflects the character of our community. It's sea life, from best I can tell. And then lastly, you mentioned the business name, which I won't go through that again. I just kind of view this as having an adverse visual effect on our historic district. I think it diminishes the quality of the historic district and its integrity of its location, setting, and design. And I ask you to deny this certificate of appropriateness and require the subject project be repainted a solid color, or you work with this group to come up with a mural design that is appropriate to this historic district. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I got a question. You talked about the character of the neighborhood.
That's correct.
And I look at the apartment building there on the corner, and what kind of character it has and what diminish it has on the neighborhood. But yet, the city, we let it sit there and fall down, garbage in the back, garbage on the streets. But nobody ever says anything about that. But then you have somebody who comes before us, and they always say beauty's in the eye of the beholder. We all know that. So, and I kind of agree with my seatmate over there that if they get rid of the sign, Gypsy Run, then I don't have an issue with the mural at all. I don't know how much you all pay in taxes. I don't know what the business generates in dollars, and I'll say that to Bridgette over here. I have no idea how much it generates in alcohol sales, but it has to be better than what was there before as far as giving money to the coffers of the city. I could be wrong on that, but it seems to me that this business generates a whole lot more dollars for the community. Now, that might not be prevalent to what we're talking about here, and it probably isn't.
You never did.
But I'm making a point. We have a group of people, 3 guys here, who wants to open a business in downtown Danville, which we all crave for, and we all want, because Danville is dying. And the moment we have this group come in and do what they said was wrong, and you all admitted that you made a mistake, to me, that's worth a whole lot, to come in here and say, hey, we screwed up. And I think we need to go ahead and approve it. I'm not making a motion.
I disagree.
I disagree too.
I think it's totally outside the character of the historic neighborhood. And while they may have made a mistake, sometimes people make mistakes thinking that forgiveness will be easier than permission.
Well, I think it's worth pointing out that you did ask them to stop and they continued the next day.
Yes, the left-hand side of that I was notified it was there. The next day, they continued with the right-hand side of it before they agreed to stop, which they said that was a miscommunication between somebody, and they can address that in the artist, but they continued to paint onto the right-hand
But
side.
that doesn't really impact what our decision is, but I think it's important to John's point is they did get an ask to stop and they didn't stop, right?
I mean, Stephen can address this, but I think what you need to determine before you even vote is this art or is this a sign? And when you make that determination, then you go from there.
True. And as far as the timeline is concerned, at least from an enforcement standpoint, it's my understanding that what you relayed is correct. However, an additional point would be upon further communication from staff, all work ceased by agreement. And so it was relayed that there was a communication issue to staff on the enforcement side, and for which an apology was rendered, and work did stop without further action of this board. So the first part of your timeline is accurate, but the second part that I just relayed, I think it's important, just so everyone has the same set of facts. Now, regarding the decision that's before you today, I think you do have to make one fundamental decision for the record to establish. Is the painting a sign or is it a mural? Once you make that determination, different guidelines come into play. If it is determined to be a sign, then there are planning and zoning regulations that would require compliance. If it is determined to be a mural, then your public artwork guidelines come into play. So question.
Can we decide if it's a mural? Because it says in the guidelines you're not allowed to have words in your mural, right?
Right,
So-
well, I mean, generally, you're gonna say a sign is gonna convey a commercial message.
Okay.
In its most basic sense. So, I mean, typically, the name of a business or product or.
Well, Mr. City Attorney, they said they would take the name Gypsy.
Sure.
Run off.
So that needs to be, and so what you could do then, therefore, is you could either say it is, if the name of the business were removed, it would be public art or a mural. You could make that finding today as it exists, or you can make a finding as it exists today. But I'm thinking if the property owners are saying that they will in fact remove that, or that's a plan, then you can take that into consideration for what it will be ultimately labeled, and therefore determine which guidelines are applicable.
Did not you all say that you all would remove the sign?
We're just trying to run a business, and if we need to take Gypsy Run off of an area, then we'll do that. To your point though, you said this mural's not in keeping with the integrity of the area. So what is the description of what that area is supposed to look like? And if the mural is not, then what, in your opinion, what is that area supposed to look like? That building is the ugliest building on 4th Street. We can't make it any uglier than it already is.
But it could be made more attractive.
That's a personal opinion.
Yes, that's your opinion though, isn't it?
But I'm in the position of having an opinion as a member of this board whose primary duty is not tax-based, but to protect the architectural integrity of a historic district.
Can you define the architectural integrity of the historic district?
I don't think I need to do that here. What I will say is that
Okay.
we cannot define everything that would be acceptable. What citizens are asked to do is to bring a proposal before us, and then we can decide. We can't lay out everything that might work. Having a big mural of sea animals does not have any, in the wildest imagination, any connection to anything historic or even people having fun drinking bubbles. It just doesn't seem out, it seems totally out of character, and I think it's too bad that you didn't ask about it before you went to the trouble.
Well, that's where we made a mistake, and we admit that. that's.
You also could just paint over the whole thing and put a different kind of image up here. So there are lots of options. I'm not here trying to cause you trouble, but I think the people on Broadway invest a lot of money in their property to help create that ambiance. And so for someone to just come in and throw a fly into the ointment, we have to consider that.
And to your point, Mr. Bowling, we've paid about $9,000 to the city, and Brian, we've made $600 each in a year and a half. So, not that that matters, but, I mean, that just tells you we're trying to put the money into the business and make it the best we can. I hope you guys consider, give consideration that if we take Gypsy Run off, and then just, you guys make your decision of this as a mural.
Well, if I'm in order, then I'm gonna make a motion that if you all do remove the signage, the Gypsy Run, I think is what you said was on there, right?
Yeah, Gypsy Run.
If you remove that, then that would throw it back into the art scenario that you were talking about a while ago, right?
That's correct.
And then we have to make a decision on that. So we take the first step, that you would remove the signage, which is Gypsy Run. And I guess if I'm in order, I'll make that motion to honor their request to take the signage off. Am I saying that right, Judy?
Yeah, but I just want to make sure that before you make that motion, do they have all the required paperwork in? You have a letter from the property owner, you have a maintenance plan, is everything in place other than?
As far as I know, Julie, they are the property owner under their
Okay,
LLC.
great.
But, yeah.
Okay, sorry, John, I just.
Maintenance agreement, is that?
Maintenance agreement?
It does, though, it's big.
Well, then at least let's measure.
Yeah, we don't have the maintenance agreement, I'm sorry.
Yep.
And can I add, I mean, I hate to keep throwing wrinkles into this, but let's say that we measure the sign and it's
The words Gypsy Run.
the Gypsy Run and it's too big, and then we go by the guidelines and we narrow it down. Then do we go back to arguing, can we have it as a sign, or does it no longer go to you guys? Does it go to the city? How does it?
No, that would be, if any commercial component is added to the artwork, the entirety of the image would be considered a sign. It's not just the word itself.
Okay, so then obviously it's too big, so, okay.
That's
we don't have
right.
that- So we don't have that option.
Right.
So clearly, there's no plan in place for this, if we can keep changing.
Just-
John
yeah.
has a motion on the floor.
It's just a simple motion.
We'll take it off.
We need a second. There wasn't a second to his
So
motion.
before we do that, would you allow me the privilege of maybe,
I would yield to you any.
okay.
We would
I think
appreciate your
the
input.
motion for the record, I think, should maybe more clearly state something as follows. That the motion is to consider, upon the removal of Gypsy Run from the rear facade, that the applicant be considered a COA for public artwork.
Well said. That's my motion.
I'll second that.
Okay. I have a motion. I have a second. Any further?
I'd like to hear the motion from you. Then we're just agreeing that it's a mural, is that all we're agreeing to?
We're just agreeing that
They take the lettering off.
explain that again.
That's right.
I think I would
So,
butcher it, but I
right.
agreed with,
So upon the removal of the name, you are saying it will be considered as a mural under the guidelines for further review.
and then we have to continue to review then
Ec-
step two.
Correct.
Yes. So I have a motion. I have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right. That passed very well.
Okay, so step two, to root yourself in the guidelines, which I know you all are well familiar, but now you want to look at section 6.3.3, and particularly, well, there's A, B, and C sections there that you can base your decision upon, as far as whether it's a certificate of appropriateness should be granted. So you can go on the ones that are specifically mention murals. We start on bullet point 3 under A. They should be located on the side or rear elevations, and they're not appropriate on the primary facade. The next bullet point, they shouldn't be located on buildings that have historically been painted, or excuse me, they should be on buildings that have historically been painted. There's the preference for removable materials, as we've discussed in other scenarios. The rest of those, I'm not going to read them to you,
Right.
but there's enough there to base your decision. Perhaps to Ms. Dixon's points, whether Section A contains the kind of basic rules. Section B goes to more the design that would address some of Ms. Dixon's concerns, I believe. And as far as interpretation of what's appropriate for the district, such as scaled properly, engage designs that are unique to Danville, designs that relate to the heritage and character of the community, using high-quality materials, locate the art so it doesn't obscure character-defining features of a building, and also locate it so it does not impair the ability to interpret the historic character of a building or the overall area.
So is spray paint,
Actually, so, yeah, spray paint is okay, but my
Yeah,
honest to
okay,
goodness
good.
comment is just, is it luminescent or reflective
No.
paint? It's just regular old spray paint?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. We're just, because you, for 6.3.3, the proposal meets guidelines, section A, and with the change, section C, we are only focused on section B currently.
Which I don't have a sharpest memory. What
That's
is-
fine, it's the design, the B states, employ design choices that are compatible with the fabric of the district.
Okay.
I just don't see how this is compatible with the district.
What is the fabric of the district?
Well, we could get the history books out.
No, yeah, we have it
It's in
conveniently.
here.
And
Let's
so, I would say it goes to, if, in our handy dandy brochure,
Yeah.
section 2, page 3, talk about being historically bold, supporting cultural identity. The cultural identity of Danville tends to be, we were the gateway to the west, so pioneering.
Well, and if you read page 30, the first paragraph
Yeah.
is just
We are
a
the city of
wonderful-
First, and this is the first mural that looks like this probably in town.
Well, you say that,
Actually,
but we
no.
already did the one that's on the side of,
There's the one down on 4th Street at the tattoo place that's similar
Yeah,
to
but that's
this.
not in our district.
But it's
But
not
that's
in our
outside the
district.
district.
But
Not
it
germane.
is not the first
Yeah.
kind of spray look.
Danville Admirals, that's,
I mean, when they talk about our architectural heritage here on page 30, they specifically reference West Broadway in the description of our architectural heritage. So
We're not on West Broadway.
but this impacts West Broadway, unfortunately. I just wish we could have seen this ahead of time. It would have certainly made it easier.
I move that we deny this request for this mural.
I'll second that.
I have a motion, I have a second.
If you don't mind, for the record, your motion needs to be rooted in the guidelines.
I move that it
You need to
be
reference the
denied
guidelines.
based on the fact of
You need to quote this,
Section
you need to
B.
quote the section.
6.3.3,
6.3.3, Section B,
section B.
that this particular design is outside what would be considered compatible with the fabric of Danville's historic neighborhood district.
I have a motion, appears to
Julie
be
has a
correctly
second.
stated. I have a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just got a comment. Is the apartment, Mr. City Attorney, is the apartment building there on the corner, is it compatible with the district?
I will leave that to your discretion. I don't know if that's a legal question or not, Mayor.
I mean, if we're
You know.
comparing what's compatible with character, I mean, I guess the city or staff needs to look at other buildings in that area, in that whole area. Would be, so are we cherry picking, a business here? I struggle with that, quite frankly, but anyway.
I disagree, John. They put a mural up that we didn't get to review. This is all on them. I mean, if they would have brought a plan to us, we could have guided them. Unfortunately, that's the situation we're in.
I concur with you, but they did have the integrity to come in here and said, hey, we made a mistake.
Because they got caught.
Because they got caught.
That's not true, though. We, as we were putting that mural up, we were putting it on Facebook. We weren't trying to hide anything. When we honestly just thought it wasn't under your jurisdiction because mistaken. We know we were wrong, but no, we never tried to get away with anything because we were literally putting this on Facebook and Instagram as we did it. And of course, we knew that was going to get, Bridgette follows us on Instagram, so we knew she was going to see it. I mean, we weren't trying to hide anything. We just didn't think that it was under your jurisdiction. And you guys have been awesome to us the whole time we've been doing this. So we would never do anything to try to jeopardize that, knowingly jeopardize it. We just didn't know any better. I mean, I know ignorance is no excuse. I know that, but that's the only thing I've got.
Well, having said that, I hope we would vote the motion down there. If you've got
Public input still permissible?
Yes, sir.
The house on Broadway in the picture.
Sir, you need to come to the microphone, please. We're recording this.
Rob, if you'll give us your name and.
My name's Robert Hunley. To address Mr. Bowling's point, 1 or 1.5 4x8 sections of trellis, the same as this gentleman has on his fence, would obscure it completely from Broadway, and it could not be seen from anywhere except in their property and maybe out his back window. It wouldn't affect the fabric of the neighborhood at all. One house I own on Broadway is painted purple and white checks, and I'm in the process of rectifying that because I don't think it's compatible with the fabric of the district. I can't see how, it's a thoroughbred seahorse, and you could put a Danville Admiral's Anchor logo on there, and then it would be right in there with the maritime history of Danville, which I know more than most about maritime stuff. But anyway, I told them a trellis would resolve everybody's problem, especially Ms. Dixon's, and address
Are you suggesting additional screening atop the fence, or?
Yeah, same kind of trellis he's got, only a little larger, and then you couldn't see it from that 10-foot swath at all unless you got up on top of a 20-foot ladder. Yeah, but the Danville Admiral's seahorse ought to be part of the program. But anyway, the Gypsy Run part of it looks like a nest of snakes anyway. I can't figure out what it is, but I like the octopus in the seahorse. And it's easily, and I'm gonna supply the hops to grow on the trellis.
There's a height restriction on
Cascade is
fences, yeah,
genus that's happier in
and
Kentucky.
materials.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
There is a height restriction on fences in the historic residential district and materials, and so I'm not sure that would even meet the standards for residential fencing. We'd have to look at that, but I don't, just a quick read, I don't see that would work.
We're a commercial business, ma'am. We're not residential.
Yeah, but he's talking in the residential end.
Not residential.
You were talking about putting a piece of lattice on the fence on the Broadway properties?
Say again? I not have made myself clear.
Yeah, you were talking about putting lattice on top of which fence?
The fence that they own.
The Gypsy Run?
behind, yeah, that is between the mural and the swath of Broadway, the 10-foot section.
I'm not sure. I'd have to,
And this gentleman's yard fence right alongside there has the same kind of trellis I'm talking about, exactly. It's
okay.
available in
Thank you.
any.
Yeah.
Rob, thank you, sir, for your attempt at mediation.
What if we ask them to modify the design and bring us back a new concept that could still work in some of what you're saying? I don't know. Could we-
We've always tried to be business friendly. I
Yeah.
hate to deny it
I know.
up front and say, can we sit down and work this thing out so everyone can leave the room happy? So would that be appropriate then? I have a motion, I have a
And I
second.
second it.
That can be withdrawn, and we can table this? Is that, Mr. Dexter, am I?
They can do that.
All we're doing is kicking the can down the road.
Right. I think part of the process, or the theory of the process anyway, is that feedback will be provided in a manner in which a project can be completed per the guidelines. So if that is still the overarching goal, then perhaps you've given some feedback or maybe additional feedback that will allow an amended certificate of appropriateness to be.
So even if we denied this, then they could come back with
Well,
it amended and.
you can deny it. However, you could also, I mean, they've agreed by stipulation to remove the words Gypsy Run from it. So that concession may in fact require an additional plan to be submitted that would be proper before you. So if they are in effect withdrawing their COA today so as to allow a new plan to be provided, then that will allow for another consideration without an outright denial today. So the point is there it would be most helpful and efficient if any feedback you had on the current design, if you're just concerned about the words Gypsy Run, then so be it. But if there are other concerns you have, you should voice them now so more time and resources and energy isn't expended on the part of the applicant in bringing back a design that you have no intention of ever approving.
So
Okay.
we've already decided that it's not a sign, that it is a mural, and so the wording would have to go either
They've
way.
agreed.
If
the
they
wording's
took
gone.
out Gypsy
Yes.
Run, you decided it wasn't a sign.
Right, so that would have to happen regardless.
I'll say that I thought the anchor idea was genius. But also, if you're looking for things that deal with this area, if you are willing to come back with, take out the Gypsy Run, then come back with a modified design test, Lake Harrington has a fine history of tradition and lots of fish and things like that. And I don't even know if I can say this, if you want to get really cool, there was the Lake Harrington monster that is part of our history as well. So there's a lot of things to draw from.
And if we're kind of brainstorming, if we drop the height of that mural, would that reduce the visibility?
Well, even with that,
But the integrity?
Well, the upper level wasn't really, it was just kind of neutral color, I mean,
Black.
yeah, colors
Okay,
anyway, it wasn't a
okay.
real design, I mean, it's a
So-
design element.
I'm looking for guidance here. I have a motion, I have a second, but we haven't voted yet. Do we want to?
What I'm proposing is if Ms. Wagner removes her second and Ms. Dixon her first, and then the applicant withdraws the current COA, and with understanding that a new one will be submitted, or an updated one will be submitted consistent with their feedback and decisions today, then you would require no motion on it.
Do they need guidance? I guess I'm looking at this going, is this something that we can all live with as part of our historic district? Yes
That
or
is
no?
not the final one. It's the one with the black is the
Yeah, I
final
don't have
design
that.
you're looking at.
But I
But
guess,
before we go down that road, and I'm just trying to keep us on track.
Keep us on the
Sure. Yeah,
procedure,
please.
please.
If you remove your second and the motion is removed and the withdrawal of the application does happen, then I think the conversation should then continue for some of these additional feedback items. But right now, there's a motion on the floor that either
Do I have
needs a vote
withdrawal?
or to be withdrawn.
We have a withdrawal of the second.
I didn't hear all your conversation, the latter part of it. What was the latter part?
If the motion is removed off the table, then it will allow for you to continue to give feedback, which will allow them to design a new concept to be submitted to you once that's completed.
We have a withdrawal of the second.
I've got a question what you're asking them to do is to design a whole new concept?
Now, I'm not asking them to do anything. I'm saying it would be appropriate for them to withdraw their application from a vote today and take the feedback that you give them and resubmit something that's consistent with that feedback and doesn't have Gypsy Run in it.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Would you care to?
If their intent is to withdraw the current COA, then I withdraw my motion, otherwise I don't.
Kind of a standoff here, but do you?
You could
Well,
always,
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Are you saying, are we to come back with a modification that's still incorporated in, or do you want us to paint over the whole thing and come up with something new?
No, I think we can
We're
get to
running
that.
out of money.
I think it could be incorporated.
Right, I think we can
Because
get to that point.
That's a big
Yeah,
deal.
I
Yeah,
think we
I
can-
think it can be incorporated, Greg.
So if we add the Lake Harrington sea monster to our mural.
That was a suggestion, not necessarily the
But
opinion of the
but
board.
Not
what-
everybody.
What sea creature can we add to the mural to allow the committee to approve our mural?
Well, I think
really
you, as
glad
the
the
applicant,
press
has to
isn't
look at our guidelines and look at what we're dictated by what this.
Your guidelines are very nebulous.
But it's
So
the
look at
fabric of the
this.
district. Okay, so then we can paint
But the
the
onus is
sea
on-
creatures that are within the historic district of Danville,
Of what-
and that's okay to the committee?
Well, if you take
I
that.
would
we could-
suggest that mural making is a difficult business, and it's unwise to invest dollars in one until you're sure you're on a good
Well, we've already
footing.
gone down that road.
And that being said, when it comes to incorporating elements like I suggested, which maybe not everybody thinks are cool, but I do, if you talk to your local library, they can back it up with historical documentation, in which case you could present that to us, saying, no, this is an important part of the history of the, look at the city, look, see how it's gone? And that would be evidence that would look very good on your part.
And not speaking for the entire board, but as long as we meet the public meetings, records, announcement, I mean, we could convene pretty quickly if you came up with a plan, correct, Bridget?
Contingent upon that, we are in the midst of holidays, so
That's
there are
correct.
some holidays
That's
coming
correct.
and people are coming and going, so that we may have trouble getting a quorum.
A question for Mr. Dexter. If we proceeded and denied this request, would they not then be able to submit a new request?
They can, but semantically, I guess it's my theory, why issue a denial if you have an applicant who is agreeable to modifying their plan? A denial is an outright,
It's also, I think I agree with you, it's semantics.
it is
It's-
semantics, but it's the image, what do you wish to convey?
Why would we do that, if they bring a plan in and it still doesn't meet our taste?
That's right. Well,
We've gone through this whole process.
and Ms. Dixon, to your point, you can always make your motion again if they don't withdraw their application, but that's the recommended course this time. The second is, or else it could die for a second. So there's a motion on the table that has not been removed.
And she seconded?
No, she's already removed her
Oh,
second.
Removed her second.
Okay, Ms. Dixon has removed hers,
has
though.
removed.
So at that point, then, Craig, are you all willing?
Here's we've just discussed it. Our plan is to take Gypsy Run off of the mural, but we don't agree that we should design the modification, so we would like you to vote.
Okay.
And then,
I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, they can't, do you see anything wrong with that, Mr. City?
Wrong with what?
His statement.
No, obviously, if they're going to just remove Gypsy Run, I think you're still left in a position, what is that exactly going to look like?
So we're back to where we were.
well, they've got
15 minutes
the
ago.
finished.
So you're back
design.
to the motion and the second, and then making a decision on the mural
As it stands right now, without the words.
without the words.
So you want to put your motion back in?
Okay.
That'll move us forward, yes.
Okay.
And I'll second.
And we have a second.
That's a
And we've had, the motion is to deny. Per section 6.3.3, section B.
Correct.
I have a motion. I have a second. We've had discussion. As a reminder, the motion is to deny. So all in favor of denial signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays?
yes.
Nay.
2 nays. So we have
4 to 2.
4 to 2.
Come back and see us.
Seems, apparently we have to, that's all we do anymore is come before someone.
Well,
Well-
there's options to proceed, and that was the ultimate goal. I think if the applicants want to proceed, that they should resubmit their plan without the words Gypsy Run and whatever design modifications minor that need to take place. What I was trying to facilitate was a further discussion of what may be palatable to the board here, and to allow you to get that feedback to hopefully garner enough support for an approved project.
And a fine job of facilitation you did. Thank you, sir.
I just think we send a real negative message to the businesses in downtown Danville when we've got people who come in here and tell us that they made an honest mistake, and we won't meet them halfway. I think that's bad on our.
And the applicant should also know they have a right of appeal to the Board of Commissioners
We know that.
on this matter, so.
Any further business before this board?
So I guess we need to write a report to the city commission of why we voted the way we did?
No, your
No.
minutes,
Or
your
our
minutes will be.
will take care of that?
We'll take care of
Okay,
that
great.
in a denial, and then if an appeal ensues, then so be it.
You said the vote was 4 to 2, I'm not sure which way. Did you deny it?
Four
Denied.
four
Denied.
against, four against and 2 for.
We voted for a negative,
Yeah.
so it gets complicated, but yes. Tiffany, are any city commissioners present at today's meeting? Thank you very much. Any other business before this committee?
Yes, I got a comment. I don't know if this has ever been done before or not. If I made a motion before we adjourn to approve and got a second, and then maybe some of us up here would like to change our mind, you shake your head no.
I'm sorry.
I know we voted, we did vote, but would I, under Robert's Rules of Order, am I in line to do that?
To make a motion to approve what?
To approve their concept and their request?
As amended without,
After removing with removing the sign Gypsy Rose?
And any other conditions?
No.
Well, that motion has been made the opposite side and already voted. You're saying for essentially a revote?
Yes, to see if anybody wanted to change their mind.
I think you're free to do so if you wanted to. You can, I mean, a body can have a revote if they want.
That's right.
So-
I make a motion that we approve their
Sir-
request, providing they remove the Gypsy Run sign.
As you find it
should we
compatible
state
with
under
section
6.3.3B?
6.3.3.
You said you do find it compatible with the historic.
Yes.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? We were going to die for lack of a second, Mr. Bowling. Very well.
I would like to add one thing for the record. The gentleman who came to speak about about his property very much knows what he's talking about. It is his profession, and he works over at Shakertown now. So I just wanted to say I appreciate him bringing his expertise to this meeting.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. Don't see you again. Happy Thanksgiving to
We
everyone.
need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn? Have a second. Well, who's the motion?
She's first, I'll second.
Okay, gotcha. Very- First, second.
Thank you for your time.